It seems like the Rangers are trying to quit smoking because they keep getting close, but no cigar.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 12 seasons, including all 7 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're talking about the Rangers suffering yet another close loss. Yet again, the bullpen letting the Rangers down just that little bit. And we're talking about a two-way prospect making his professional debut. Before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. Now, the Rangers lost last night. Again, another one-run loss, 3-4 at the hands of the Kansas City Royals, where the Rangers were just this close to being able to come away with a victory. A just real hot and cold game for Jack Leiter. Finishes the day with 3 2/3 innings, 5 strikeouts, 2 massive home runs that accounted for all 3 of the runs he gave up in this one, 3 walks as well, 6 hits. Just could not get himself out of trouble despite having, stop me if you've heard this before, 18th esque. This was just extremely Jack Leiter, relying almost exclusively on his fastball and his slider, only throwing 3 curveballs, 6 changeups, 6 sinkers as well in 81 pitches, and 30 or more of the slider and the 4-seam fastball. Although they were, effective pitches at times, I mean, nearly half of his sliders resulted in swings and misses. It was still just a frustrating day at the office on the mound for Jack Leiter, who immediately gave up a leadoff homer and then walked Bobby Witt Jr. and then just buckled down and got 3 straight strikeouts in that first inning. He thought, okay, maybe he can start to, learn his lesson. Only 1 run given up, still a lot of pitches thrown in that first inning, but there's time for Jack Leiter to bounce back and to get himself out of things. And, that did not end up happening, giving up a walk and then a massive bomb to Vinny Pasquantino, the Pasquatch, who has just been on fire as of late for the Kansas City Royals. And, he got himself into trouble in that 4th inning and was not able to get himself out. Luis Curvelo was the one who did that. And then Curvelo gives up just a real cheapy home run that ended up being the difference in the game, and expected batting average on that homer that just barely snuck over that wall right next to the pole in left field by Michael Garcia, a 250 expected batting average on that thing. And that was the difference in the ball game. That and a very, very close challenge decision that the Rangers ended up losing. Jock Peterson, not exactly the fleetest of foot, tagging up on a ball hit to the outfielder in right field that Josh Smith hit pretty well. Could have hit a little bit better, but Rave out there in right field gunned down Jock Peterson, or did he? At least on the field, it was ruled a double play. The Rangers did not get a run there, and the Rangers challenged it, and it looked pretty clear on replay review that Jock Peterson got his foot in under that tag, that the tag didn't get him until it looked like his foot had touched home plate. But apparently it wasn't clear and convincing enough, despite about 2, 3, 4, 5, 17 minutes in review. It was one of the longer reviews I've seen in a long time. And it looked pretty cut and dry with a couple of different angles that the Rangers were going to get a run back on this challenge. But alas, that was not the case, and the Rangers could not pile together enough offense against the likes of Michael Wacha and Lucas Erceg and Carlos Esteves and Schreiber in the bullpen to just get 4 runs or 5 runs. They got 11 hits and just weren't able to string them together because, again, this team has really had a problem with hitting into double plays. I mean, Simeon and Tellez, when the Rangers were looking like they were building momentum in a couple of different endings, end up grounding into double plays. They got a couple of hits with runners in scoring position, one from Evan Carter, and a pretty big double by Corey Seager. Rowdy Tellez ends up driving in a run in this one. Carter gets an RBI in this one. Jonah Heim gets hit with a runner in scoring position. He has done very well in those clutch situations, despite overall this year not doing all that well in particular. But it's just not enough. Yet again, it is not enough for this team in a game that they absolutely had to have against a team that they are trailing now by 2.5 games at this point. Yeah, they're 6 games out of the wild card at this point. 6 games out of that final wild card where the Mariners are, because they are on an L3. The Red Sox are on an L2. And all the teams ahead of them just keep on winning. The Royals have won 4 straight games. I mean, the Guardians are 5-5 in their last 10 games, which is enough to gain 3 games of ground on this Rangers team, who is 2-8 in their last 10 games. They have just been abysmal in this month. They've been abysmal in 1-run games. I mean, they're 17-25. I mean, only winning 40% of those games. They can't come back. They keep blowing leads. They've got 30 blown leads on the year, and it has just been absolutely infuriating to watch. And that's just kind of what this team has been. This is about what they are at this point. It is just so incredibly frustrating to watch the same things happen again and again and again. And the Rangers, a couple of different things break slightly differently, and maybe they win this game, but that's just not the kind of team they've been this year. I mean, Marcus Semien nearly gets hit with a pitch to lead off that 9th inning and hits a ball pretty darn far and pretty darn high. And had they still been in Toronto, it would have been a game-tying homer. But alas, they are in Kansas City, where home runs are theoretically hard to hit unless you're the Royals right now and can just get them in bunches. And the Rangers, alas, cannot get them in bunches, because one of the guys who is hitting home runs, or at least is hitting at all for the Rangers, he was placed on the IL. We'll talk about Jake Berger's IL stint a little bit later on in this show. And because I'm so frustrated with this big league team, and it is basically the exact same thing happening again and again, there's something new that I want to talk about. A Rangers two-way prospect making his debut this weekend, a pretty interesting fashion. Talk about that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. They got all kinds of different odds right now, betting odds for the World Series champion. Somehow the Brewers, despite not being able to lose for the last month or so, are only the second favorite to win the World Series at plus 750. Dodgers favored plus 320. Phillies at plus 850, the third favorites. And then the Tigers, the favorites in the American League, at plus 950, just ahead of those Seattle Mariners, who have better odds than the Houston Astros, despite having a worse record. So visit FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Shout out to the Everydayers making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be talking about second game of this series. Hopefully another strong start to build off of for the Rangers trade deadline acquisition in Merrill Kelly. But either way, I will be back here in this chair talking about baseball yet again tomorrow, because that is what I do. That is who I am. I am a man who talks about baseball. There were a couple of things that I wanted to mention before we get off of this game last night. Some bounce back performances for some relievers, a couple of relievers who just desperately needed every single shutout performance that they can give. Any outing where they don't give up a run or a home run is just a massive, massive feather in their cap right now, because these two are in such a bad way. I mean, Robert Garcia working himself into just a little bit of a jam. Definitely considered a low leverage spot, because the Rangers were already losing by a couple of runs. Gets in there, gets a strikeout, and gets a double play to get himself out of a jam. And then Phil Maton comes in. He works a perfect inning. Dear Lord, did this man need a perfect inning of work because the last couple have been just some of the most brutal performances I've seen by a reliever. Given the situation, given the context, I mean, Phil Maton just completely blew that game on Friday, and he completely blew the game on Wednesday as well. Just getting back out there and not completely blowing a game can just help his confidence recover because while it's very easy to say, "Oh, just fire him. Oh, just cut him. Oh, just send him loose. Send him to the wolves." The Rangers aren't mathematically eliminated yet. I mean, emotionally, it feels like they very much are, and it is possible for them to just go on a 6-game winning streak and win 6 of these next 6 games, all against teams who they are trailing in the wild card right now. And if they did that, they would pass all of those teams and maybe even end up in that final wild card spot themselves, kicking out the Seattle Mariners, who are sitting not as pretty in that third wild card spot right now, but you just need to ride with the guys who are there right now because unfortunately right now there is no help coming along the way, but eventually down the road there might be. In one of the more interesting Rangers prospects, a guy who is ranked in the top 30 prospects by MLB Pipeline at Seong-Jun Kim, who is a two-way player signed out of Korea this year with the international bonus pool money the Rangers had left over from not signing Roki Sasaki. They said, hey, why don't we give this kid a chance? But it seemed like we weren't going to see Seong-Jun Kim, who is a shortstop and right-handed pitcher. Yes, he is both. He has played both. He has played 2 games. He has played both positions and shown some flash, shown something there. I did not think that Seong-Jun Kim was going to play in organized baseball this year. It seemed like he was going to stay over in Korea, and then next year we would see him making his professional debut. But that was not the case. I did not see the Rangers announcing this. I was just going through Dominican Summer League box scores, as I am wont to do because I am a baseball sicko, and I'm looking at every single Dominican League box score for Rangers prospects, and I saw a name Kim in there, and I thought, that's interesting that Rangers have a Kim in their system. And usually the players in the Dominican Summer League, not to stereotype or generalize, but pretty much it is exclusively players who grew up in Southern and Central America or in the Caribbean. That is basically exclusively where those players go. A lot of times it is the guys who the Rangers sign internationally who are 16, 17, sometimes 18 years old, who usually speak predominantly Spanish. It is a place where the Rangers prospects and just all prospects in general can go at pretty much every team. I think actually every team has a Dominican Summer League Academy where they will all go and, learn how to speak English a little bit, have some life skills as well. Because most of these kids have not graduated high school. Most of them are in their early teens, late teens, not early teens, because you can't sign until you're 16. So most of them are 17, 18, 19 years old. And so they'll go play here. This is the lowest level of affiliated professional baseball. And here comes Seong-Jun Kim. He has played in now 2 games. He made his debut a couple of days ago as a pitcher. He threw 11 pitches in that inning, had a perfect inning of work. Got a strikeout, swinging on a pitch of the dirt, then got a ground out, and then got another strikeout, swinging. That was it for him. 11 pitches, 7 strikes, 4 balls, 2 whiffs, 1 called strike, and overall a pretty decent day. Still does not have his first professional hit, but he also hit in that game. He ended up reaching on an error. He struck out swinging, and he also grounded out. He got lifted for a pinch hitter later on in that game. Only 3 plate appearances in the game where he pitched. And then the next game comes out there and plays shortstop. I mean, this is something we have not seen really very much in minor league baseball. Shohei Ohtani did come over as a 2-way player, but he is pretty much exclusively DH'd when he has been playing. Now, eventually, there have been other 2-way players, but usually they're not 2-way position players. Usually they will pitch and they will not play the field. They will either play first base or they will DH. Jack Caglione, who is of the Royals, he was kind of a 2-way player. He was pretty wild as a pitcher. The Rangers also drafted another 2-way player who is already being not listed as a 2-way player. Their 3rd-round pick, Josh Owens, drafted out of high school in Tennessee. His command was profiled as reliever-ish already. So the Rangers might already be scrapping him as a two-way player. I bet they'll give him a couple of chances. Owens isn't going to play professionally, I don't think, this year because he has not made his pro debut. He is listed as being in the Arizona Complex League, but I don't think we'll see him this year. I don't think we'll see any of the Rangers' top prospects. Gavin Feen is also listed as the Arizona Complex League. He has not played a professional game so far this year. Same with AJ Russell, the Rangers' second-round draft pick, a right-handed pitcher out of Tennessee. He has not pitched this year. I don't anticipate us seeing him pitch this year, especially of all three of those guys I just mentioned, the Rangers' top three picks. I really don't think we'll see AJ Russell because he's, he pitched this year for Tennessee coming back from elbow surgery, and I think the Rangers will try and keep those innings pretty limited. But in his second game, Seong-Jun Kim played shortstop. He grounded out in his first plate appearance. Then he grounded into a double play, but he still reached base because there were runners on first and second, and it's the Dominican Summer League, so wild things happen. Out at second, out at third. He reaches on first place on what was nearly, I'm sure, probably nearly a triple play. Not a whole lot of information on these games, not a whole lot of accurate pitch data. Can't really see exactly what the velocity was, what the pitch mix was, or really even where the pitches actually were. Even if you go into MILB game day, I mean, the pitches are just kind of suggestions on where they were. There's a lot of times you'll see a pitch that they tag it right down the middle of the zone. That's called a ball. Not a whole lot of accurate pitch tracking data there. But he ended up stealing a base there. He struck out looking once. He walked. He advanced on a wild pitch, and he also had an RBI groundout, all while playing shortstop. I mean, just an interesting thing to see if the Rangers are going to let him stick with it. If they're going to let Josh Owens stick with it, I think Seong-Jun Kim, now that he is already playing and playing two positions and playing this year, I think that's very interesting and very telling. They are very committed to this. He's 18 years old. He doesn't turn 19 until May 1st of next year, born in 2007. It's going to be a while for him. He's listed as a guy who's got a fastball, curveball, slider, also has a splitter. His biggest tool is his plus arm. They also rate him as a potential future plus fielder at shortstop. And there's not a whole lot of guys like this because, again, usually it's the injury risk that prevents guys from playing the field as much. I mean, Shohei Ohtani, we've seen that, you have an injury while batting and it backs up how much you're going to be pitching, how long you're going to be pitching. He had that shoulder injury in the World Series, so he didn't end up making his pitching debut this season until, July? And that was basically 2 years after he had the initial elbow surgery. So the Rangers, I'm sure, are going to be very careful with him, but them having two guys in their system means they have a system in place already. They know what they're doing with this. The Rangers were one of the finalists to sign Shohei Ohtani initially, which means they probably back then had some kind of, plan on how they would handle having a two-way player. And well, I don't think we're going to see Shohei Ohtani start playing the outfield anytime soon. Having a player who is a legitimate position player, not just a hitter, DH, but also a pitcher, is something that the Rangers are clearly targeting. So I think they clearly have some kind of a plan in place for, and I'm interested to see how this works. I mean, we'll see how far Seong-Jun Kim advances, where he starts next year. Maybe he ends up starting the year in the Arizona Complex League. Maybe he ends up finishing out the season. I'm not sure how many games are left in this Dominican Summer League. There's not very many because the season's going to start winding down here pretty darn soon. But I'm glad that we got to see Seong-Jun Kim in at least a couple of games. There are at least a few more in the Dominican Summer League, although he went 0 for 7 so far in his first 7 at-bats as a professional baseball player. He is a legit two-way pitcher and shortstop, and I am fascinated to see where he goes from here. But coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about Jake Burger, unfortunately landing on the IL at the worst possible time. And we're talking about another Rangers prospect, not a two-way player, but a pitcher who has been lighting it up in the lower levels and earned himself a promotion. All that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football isn't far behind. Whether you've got your eye on big-name quarterbacks to breakout running backs, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in on the game. It makes it so simple. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 players' stat projections. And if your picks get right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. The flex play option is a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you still double your money. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 play. PrizePicks. Run your game. Shout out to the everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. After every single game, Jeff Biggs is with you with a Locked On Rangers postcast, reacting live to all 162 in your Locked On Rangers podcast feeds on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Now, the Rangers got some bad news before this game. Jake Burger is going to be out for a little while. Yet again, at the worst possible time. He was lifted twice in this series against Toronto after dealing with a little bit of a sore wrist, and he has been officially placed on the IL. After Sunday's game, the thought was, okay, he's going to head back to Arlington. He's going to get some scans. At the least, he's going to miss 2 to 3 days, but hopefully he's going to avoid an IL stint. That was not the case because after he was sent back to Arlington to get those scans on his wrist, it is confirmed he had a sprained left wrist. And that's after the month of August where he's had a near 1,100 OPS in this month, a 1097 OPS in the month. And it just sucks. It absolutely sucks. Burger's season has just been derailed so many times this year with a couple of different injuries. He only played 84 games so far this season because this will now be his third IL stint. And yet still, he is pretty close up there in terms of the home run leaders on this team. There's Seager with 18, now Wyatt Langford with 17, Adolis with 16, Marcus Semien with 15, and then is Jake Burger right there with his 12 home runs. Not a whole lot of other big home run hitters on this team this year, but Burger was really heating up in the last couple of games. I mean, he had a 3-hit day in Toronto. He also had a hit in RBI in that game on Sunday before he got pulled. I mean, just incredibly frustrating. And against Arizona, in a game that the Rangers ended up ultimately losing, he had that huge clutch 2-run homer. And again, it wasn't good timing for Jake Burger, this injury. It's never good timing for an injury, but this is especially bad for a guy who the Rangers have for a long time and who they really need to get right. I mean, heck, they need every single hot bat that they can get. It gets more time for Rowdy Tellez, who has been performing pretty well with the Rangers. Jock Peterson, who had a couple of really good at-bats in that game yesterday. We're seeing him start to lift the ball at a more ideal launch angle. He's still hitting the ball hard, which he's done all season long. He's still got that bat speed. He's still able to work some walks and get on base. We're seeing Jock Peterson start to have that more ideal launch angle, which hopefully will lead to more home runs, more extra base hits, and less just double plays grounded into and just wasted at bats. But again, this is just so frustrating for Jake Burger, who's going to be on the IL through this very critical stretch for the Rangers. These next 7 games, I mean, there are just very few stretches for the Rangers that have been more critical this season or even the last couple of years to their postseason hopes. I mean, they played 4 games against the Royals. They already lost the first one, and then they played 3 games against the Guardians, 2 teams who they are very much trailing. And then they finish out the month with 6 games against the Angels and the Athletics combined. He will be eligible to return. I believe that is that first game against the Athletics on the 29th. But again, the Rangers are going to need to step up. Alejandro Ozuna was called up in his stead, so maybe we'll see Ozuna playing a little bit more out there in the outfield. Maybe we'll see a little bit less of Josh Smith out there in right field. I mean, who knows what the combination will be at this point. There's not a whole lot of things that Bruce Bochy has left to try to kind of get the most out of this Rangers team that he hasn't already tried. I mean, there have been so many reworked lineups, so many guys sitting after a cold couple of days and just trying to get whoever is that next hot bat in here. And it just has not worked. There's only so much you can do. And when you keep on losing bats, especially one of the only ones who was heating up, it is just makes life so much more difficult for this Rangers squad. But I want to talk about some good news before we get out of here. Rangers, what are their top pitching prospects? A guy who has just absolutely flown up through the rankings, Caden Scarborough, earned a promotion to High A Hub City after winning the Carolina League Pitcher of the Week. 5 no-hit innings with 7 strikeouts, only 1 base runner that reached on a walk. He has been stellar so far this year. The Rangers drafted him in the 6th round in 2023. He was a guy who was drafted out of high school, was really honestly more of a basketball player than a baseball player. He's listed at 6'5", 185, and he has been truly incredible so far this year. I mean, just dominant. He's still building up as a starting pitcher. So early on in the year, he wasn't able to go very deep into games. He's touched as high as 96. I believe he might have gotten that all the way up to 98 at this point in the season. But early on in the year, he wasn't able really to go 5 innings. I mean, his first couple of starts, 3 innings, 3 2/3 innings, 4, 4, 3 2/3, 4, 3 2/3, 4, 4, 4. He didn't go through 5 innings until July 12th against the River Cats. And in that game, he went 5 shutout innings with 5 strikeouts. I mean, his last 3 starts have been truly exceptional this year. I mean, 5 no-hit innings, like I just said, in his most recent outing on the 14th. Then a week before that against Columbia, he went 6 innings, 5 strikeouts, just 1 walk, 1 unearned run in that one. And then 5 innings the start before that, only 1 earned run, 0 walks, 4 strikeouts for him in that one. And on the year, it has just led to some very impressive numbers, a 2.88 ERA in 19 games pitched, 75 innings, 95 strikeouts, less than a homer per 9, less than 2.5 walks per 9 for a guy who was more of a basketball player than a pitcher. He has been much more refined than the Rangers expected whenever they drafted him. The stuff was more raw. They were betting on him as an athlete more than just his track record as a pitcher in general. But 11.5 Ks per 9, or 11.4 Ks per 9 for him. He has been much more than they anticipated. He's got a fastball, a curveball, slider, changeup. The fastball, slider are 2 of the best pitches. They are potentially future plus pitches, but a guy who's listed at 6'5", 185, it means he's got room to grow out. He's got room to add more bulk onto that frame, and that, sitting in the lower to mid 90s could maybe sit in the, mid to upper 90s one day, or touch as high as 98, 99. I mean, he's sitting more of that 94 to 96 range. And you pair that with what he's got in terms of the breaking balls and the curveball and the slider and the changeup as well. If that starts to be, an average pitch, which maybe right now it's kind of fringe average, but all of that to say, this guy is really starting to put it together. Some of the advanced numbers guys have really, really liked him. I believe it's TJ Stats that was putting together his own top 100 prospect rankings and had Caden Scarborough on that top 100 prospect rankings. He jumped so high up there. He jumped into the Rangers' top 10 prospects at the midseason re-rank. I mean, right now, the Rangers' top 10 prospects looks very, very different than it did just a couple of months, or just even a month ago. Before that draft, Sebastian Walcott still obviously the Rangers' top prospect there. Gavin Feen as the Rangers' number 2 prospect. Jose Corniel up there at number 3. Winston Santos at number 4. And AJ Russell at number 5. And Malcolm Moore, that's another concerning story. He has just been hitting truly terribly this season. A 554 OPS between 2 different levels, mostly just with High A Hub City. I mean, after that broken pinky, the first month of the season, he looked pretty darn good. First 3-4 weeks or so, he looked very, very good. And then since then, just has not hit really at all. He's all the way down to the Rangers' number 11 prospect right now. And Devin Fitzgerald, who was having himself a really good season, he just has quietly not pitched or not hit since June 19th and July 2nd. And I have heard absolutely nothing, which is super fun, about one of the few hitters in this Rangers system who was, starting to jump up those rankings, starting to be a guy who's like, oh, turning heads. The guy who I was not thinking about before this season made his pro debut this year and looked really darn good, and has just been out for a month and a half with no update. But that's kind of the way minor league baseball go. It has just been not a great year on the farm, not a great year at the major league level for the Rangers either. But there are some signs of life there. I mean, David Davalillo having a breakout season this year. Caden Scarborough being a guy who had a breakout season this year. I mean, Jose Corniel just getting back and getting healthy. That is another big development that people aren't thinking a whole lot about. I mean, he's built all the way up to 4 innings. I don't know if we'll see Jose Corniel. I mean, he's a guy who's on the 40-man roster, and if you're looking for guys with velocity and nasty stuff to just jump into the bullpen and maybe help out, I mean, maybe you put him in there. I mean, he had 4 perfect innings with 5 strikeouts in his last outing for Double-A Frisco, and the outing before that, 4 innings, 1 hit, 4 strikeouts. So you combine his last 2 starts, 8 innings, 1 hit, and 9 strikeouts. That's pretty darn good. Also, no other base runners besides that. No walks, no hit by pitches, no nothing. This guy has been very, very good this year. Still building him back up. He hasn't pitched all that much this season because he has still been coming back from Tommy John surgery, which he underwent after the 2023 season. So this is the first time we've seen him pitch this year. But in 9 games so far, between a couple of different teams, mostly with Frisco, 4 games with the Arizona Rookie League, but in 5 games, actually, with Frisco Rough Riders, he has not allowed a single earned run. Not a single one. And 17 strikeouts to just 1 walk in 15 2/3 innings. Just 3 hits in that span. That is pretty darn good. I don't know how much longer he'll be in Double-A. I would imagine he'll see Triple-A before the end of this season if he continues this, or maybe the Rangers just want to keep him and his innings intact. But Jose Corniel, a guy who should definitely still be on your radar, a guy who the Rangers got from the Seattle Mariners in a trade for a reliever whose name is eluding me at this moment. But still, there are some things to be smiley about when it comes to baseball, and having a 2-way player making his pro debut, playing pitcher and hitting in 1 game, and then playing shortstop the very next game. That is something that's interesting. That is something I have not seen. And that is something that makes me help to remember to enjoy baseball. That's going to do it for today's show. And like I just said, find some way to enjoy some baseball.